This is episode 325 of JumbleThink.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to JumbleThink, where we interview dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers all about their journey of turning their dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Our guest on today's show is Kelley Earnhardt Miller. More about Kelley in a moment. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, if you've never subscribed to JumbleThink, head on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts and click that subscribe button. If you don't know where to go, head on over to jumbleThink.com. You'll find links to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and more. Now let's jump into today's conversation. Hey there, welcome to JumbleThink. My name's Michael Woodward. I am your host, and we have a really cool show lined up for you today. Before we talk about that, we want to thank our friends over at Floxy for sponsoring today's show. Floxy is your monthly subscription to graphic design, web development, and even video editing. And as a listener of JumbleThink, they're going to do something super cool. They're going to give you 10% off your first month. All you have to do is head on over to Floxy, FLOCKSY.com/JumbleThink. That's Floxy.com/JumbleThink. I am super excited about today's conversation. Our guest is Kelley Earnhardt Miller. Now, you may not recognize her name, but if you've followed anything in the world of racing, especially NASCAR, you've either heard of her dad, Dale Earnhardt, or her brother, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and she is an integral part of the Earnhardt legacy. She is the co-owner and general manager of JR Motorsports and is considered one of the most prominent businesswomen in NASCAR today. She oversees the company's race team, management team, and business ventures for her brother, Dale Earnhardt Jr. She is also the daughter of seven-time NASCAR champion Dale Earnhardt. Kelley has a brand new book out, as of today. It is called Drive, 9 Lessons to Win in Business and in Life. Super fun read. I've been reading it. Love the book. It combines their family story along with lessons of business and the world of racing. So if you love any of those things, this is a book for you. Now, I am super excited about this conversation. We cover a lot of ground. We talk about the Earnhardt legacy. We talk about business. We talk about overcoming adversity. We talk about NASCAR. We talk about coronavirus and how it's impacting NASCAR and how they're adapting NASCAR for coronavirus. We talk about faith. We talk about a lot of stuff. So let's go ahead and join the conversation we had with today's guest, Kelley Earnhardt Miller. We are here with Kelley Earnhardt Miller. Kelley, thank you so much for taking time out in these crazy days we're in.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to be here, Michael. It is it's kind of a great diversion to be releasing a book and talking to folks like you during what is, otherwise just a really crazy time.
Yeah, and the book, Drive, 9 Lessons to Win in Business and in Life, is out today. So, pretty awesome times to have a book come out because we need some diversions. We need some reading material to break away from the craziness of what we're facing.
You're right. I was real worried about the release and this timing. Been working on this book for 18 months. And so 18 months ago, had no idea that this would be what was going on. And leading into the weeks of my release today, just thinking through, is this the right thing to be doing? What's the message that you want to send out? And like you said, it is a good time to read a book. There's lots of people at home. There's lots of people looking for diversions and distractions. There's people looking for inspiration. So I'm excited for the book to come out and for people to, get some of probably what they're needing in these days.
I know some of our listeners are going to be very aware of who you are. They're fans of NASCAR. They know who your dad was, Dale Earnhardt. They know your brother, Dale Earnhardt Jr. They've probably even heard of the business that you're the co-owner and GM, JR Motorsports. There are others that are listening that may be going, oh, NASCAR, I like watching, but they don't recognize some of these names. They don't recognize you. You're a pretty integral part in the legacy of NASCAR and what legacy NASCAR's been and where it's going. So talk to us a little bit about growing up as the daughter of Dale Earnhardt and being in a lifestyle that has been consumed by racing.
Yeah, well, it's funny because a lot of people will ask me questions throughout my life. What's it like growing up as Dale Earnhardt's daughter? What's it like this? And, it's really hard to, if you're not growing up as Dale Earnhardt's daughter, it's really kind of hard to articulate that because I don't know anything different. I don't know a comparison. So I can't say, well, this is what it was like for me. And I bet for you, it was like this. Right. But it's a funny thing to think about, but racing, growing up, obviously born to him and my mom in 1972 and growing up, lived with my mom quite a bit in our early years after their divorce. And we had a house fire, moved in with our dad. And then I lived with my dad during the 80s, which was really when his career was booming. Yeah. And, went on to college, come out of college to work in the souvenir business. And then we lost my dad in 2001, so I was 27 years old. But, life as Dale Earnhardt's daughter was I speak a lot about it in my book. From my vantage points, there was a lot missing from him as a dad. And so I go through, a lot of that in the first part of my book and talking about that and talking about what I feel like I was missing. And but after his death, I came to work for Dale Jr. I knew that he would be needing someone to kind of look after his interests because that's what my dad did when he raced at Earnhardt Incorporated. Yeah. And so I've been doing that for 20 years. And, that has led me in all different directions in terms of managing his businesses and starting our race team together with Mr. Hendrick and running JR Motorsports and, having the 125 employees that we have today and 3 championships under our belt and all of those things. And from that aspect, life as Dale Earnhardt's daughter over the last 20 years since he's been gone is just really about preserving his legacy and the legacy and reputation that the Earnhardts have in the NASCAR world. And that's really important to me and close to my heart.
It was interesting. I was watching a video. It was an interview that Kyle Petty had done with you back in 2019. And he was talking about like what his dad had built and he and his family have inherited and continue to build in the legacy that their children get to be a part of. One of the things that I think was surprising for me in the book was that you've had to struggle through figuring out how to continue that legacy. It hasn't been a clear cut, you're taking over his enterprise, you're taking over the business. There was a lot of complexity with family and with your stepmom and everything like that. You've made some hard decisions throughout your life when it comes to the things you invest in, the things that you're doing, and your commitment to doing it and doing it well. Walk us through that process for you to make that decision to say, you know what, I'm going to take and invest in this new enterprise and it's going to continue the legacy, but it's going to be separate from that legacy.
Yeah. We really, weren't given a choice to continue the business at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. When I came to work for Dale in 2001, he was still driving for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, did that, through 2007. And those years were, really difficult. The motivation to be there for the employees and all the employees that had worked really hard to put DEI in the position that it was in, to really strongly compete on the racetrack. And, everybody was real focused on living out what my dad had planned for at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. But unfortunately, we could not, really get anywhere with Teresa and try to make that a lifelong thing for us. And during those years, we started our own race team in 2004. Now, albeit it was on a much smaller scale of Hooters Cup racing and late model racing that we were doing. But, we were toying with the idea of owning a race team and doing those kinds of things. And Dale Jr. managing Dale's business as a brand, was my responsibility outside of the competition part of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. But so we really weren't given a choice to kind of be a part of that business. And we made a really difficult decision in 2007 to leave there and go drive for Mr. Hendrick in 2008. And, it was a very emotional decision because we didn't know what our fans were going to think and our dad's fans were going to think and how that was going to work out. But at the end of the day, looking out for Dale's interest and our best interest was the most important thing that we could have done then. And, it's all worked out. I've always said, and people around me, would echo this in terms of, the legacy of someone is what their kids carry on. And so, we've been given that opportunity to carry on that legacy of NASCAR through Junior Motorsports and through what we're doing. It's just not, through the company that my dad built and what I think he had in mind for us to do.
I got the pre-release of the book and reading through it, and what stood out to me, and I think what I like about it is it's easy to say, I'm going to write a memoir and just focus on that. Although I'm sure probably painful and therapeutic in some ways to wrestle through some of these things that you had to figure out for yourself. But you've done it by also not marrying just the stories in your story, but also the processes of lessons for business, lessons for life. And there's a lot of takeaways. It's not just a biography or an autobiography. It is also a book that there's so much you can take away, even if you're not a fan of racing.
Yeah, well, that's really my hope, talking about the book, people say, what do you want people to get from the book? And that really is, I want them to find something in here to take away. Yeah. We've been talking about ourselves for 25 years as Earnhardt. We've done every interview under the sun. So there's tons of information out there. And so, writing it, the first part of the book is the autobiography type part, just kind of setting up my story for readers that aren't familiar with who I am or what I'm doing. But you're right. The 2/3 of the book are these principles that really are work related, professional related, life related, relationship related, raising kids. There's all types of things in here. And it's just really an experience of mine and how I've dealt with things, through my life and what I feel are important in terms of leading, whether it's professionally or personally. So it is, there's the racing component is there, but it's hardly about that.
Yeah. And I love the topics in here, just looking through here. One of the ones that as I read through the chapter just really hit me hard was simply about the power of letting go so you can move forward. And, I think that that's something that many of us, whether it's in business or whether it's in family, can really relate to, that sometimes you just simply have to step away and say, if I'm going to move forward, if I'm going to be successful, I've got to step away to get there.
Yeah.
And for you had to make that decision at a very young age and risk a lot to step into the new future. We were talking about that a minute ago. But that's not where the lessons stop. One of the other lessons that I really thought was powerful was the power of being authentic and approachable. Talk to us a little bit about that process. You have a dad that you have an interesting dynamic with him and you, and yet you come out on the other side learning from that and using that to apply to your own family, to your own work experience.
Yeah, it took a few years of therapy to get there, but and that was kind of the premises of one of the reasons I also wanted to write the book was that I wanted to kind of put a bow on that therapeutic aspect of it for me and that healing process for me, because I didn't deal with all of that kind of baggage very well most of my adult life, and really trying to figure that out and how it played a role in my life. And that's kind of where, let it go comes from, and realizing that, you do have to let things go to move forward. But often that's very difficult. We don't want to forgive. We don't want to forget. We don't want to, let go of some of the things that are holding us back. So it's a difficult process to do. And I talk a lot about, those experiences in my life and that chapter and what that means. And being authentic and approachable, it's something I've never had a problem with. Yeah. I'm such a down to earth person. And so, but I think it just is so important in relationships to be authentic and approachable. And I find it very rewarding here at Junior Motorsports to that the 125 people that work here, they know me, I know them, I know their wives, their kids, I know what's going on in their life because I stop by in the mornings on my way in, and you have a conversation with someone and they may, say, hey, well, my wife's, she's been sick with the flu, and a couple of days later I come back and I say, hey, how's your wife? Yeah. I mean, that goes such a long way with people of, and then they're more comfortable to approach you and to be honest and respectful about things that maybe are on their mind from a business perspective and a work perspective that we can work through together and find solutions together. So I just think that approachable aspect and being authentic is, it's a more productive way to live and do business.
Well, you even talk about that in the book when you're talking about, I'll take my own trash out when it's full, or you tell the story about the time you drove your husband a little crazy when you needed to vacuum out the car, and he's just like, hey, let somebody else do that. Somebody can do that for you.
Yeah.
And I find that so refreshing. In leadership, so often in business, you get to a place of success or of a specific level of responsibility, and some of those things that just keep you connected to the people around you go out the window, and you become the guy or the gal in the corner office that no one ever approaches. How do you keep that mindset of being accessible when it would be so easy to just, do the status quo and say, hey, I've got to run the business. I'm up in my office, don't bother me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not in my DNA to be that way. I can't. I have to. I am a person that leads by example. I am, no better or different than anybody else here in my office. You'll see me going through the halls, picking up, pieces of paper or mud off the stairs or all kind of stuff like that. I just, I think it's a great example to set for other people that, there's nothing here that's above me. What I ask you to do, I do myself. And I just think that goes a long way with people to find that mutual respect for others. And it's just how I literally just am not wired to do that differently, to be that. Now, there's on occasion, where I may not have the time or something of that nature, but I'm just not wired that way.
One of the other chapters that really jumped out to me, and I think, both from the racing standpoint, but the life standpoint, you talk about preparing for your race. And with the world of racing, we see the Saturday or the Sunday race. We see when you guys show up and you perform the job that you've been preparing for, whether it's a mechanic, whether it's somebody rebuilding and, the paint scheme or the wrap on the car. There's so much that goes into preparation. And I think many of us in life, especially in the age that we live in, we expect to arrive and be ready for the race. And you talk about the importance of preparing for the race. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, every day is we're prepping and preparing. Like we're never ready, We don't ever have it all together. So, I think we have to be honest and okay with ourselves that that's okay, and that we may not be. We're not always buttoned up, and we always don't know, everything that we might need to know. That's kind of, for me, what keeps you growing and being challenged and every day. And so, that's just kind of that prepping. We're, from a JR Motorsports perspective, the logistics of preparing for a race are very detailed and complex. And so, that the same with life, you've got to kind of prep yourself for that, get your priorities in order. I think one of the things that I love about that preparation part is really focusing on your passion and your skills. And I was talking to someone earlier about one of the reasons that I think that JR Motorsports is successful and that we're successful is that we stick to our core values. So that kind of, to me, goes along from a personal perspective of sticking with your passion and skills is kind of like the core values of your business. Like what's core to you, what's true to you, what do you enjoy, what do you like, and build from there, in your everyday life. So, that prep part for your life is an important piece.
Well, as we pivot towards the end of this first segment, we always ask the following 3 questions. The first one, how do you find purpose in what you do?
How do I find purpose in what I do? The biggest drivers for me personally are my children, and understanding that my role as a mom is driving them and leading them and mentoring them so that they can grow up into good adults. So that's a lot of purpose. And then the other are the employees here. I tell them quite often, the business that we're in from an Xfinity NASCAR perspective is not a lucrative financial business model. And, every decision that I make here and all the things that we do here, we do with 125 individuals and families that, are in play. And so, I do it for them. My purpose is to make the right decisions, to make the best decisions, to keep us all here doing things that we love and, growing and raising my family.
What is one challenge you're currently working to overcome?
The COVID-19.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, seriously, if you think about in today's climate right now on April the 7th, it's, you're in the midst of trying to figure out how your business is rolling forward. So, for us in the NASCAR industry, the challenge is this isn't going to come full circle until closer to the end of the year, until we know how many races we're running, until, the contracted amount of races that we have a contract for versus what we end up actually getting to do they match up? Is that going to be a financial hit to the company and so on and so forth? So that challenge right now is trying to manage and mitigate that risk, not really knowing what the risk is, what the result and what the end result is going to be for quite some time. So much like a lot of businesses.
Yeah. What's the next big dream, idea, or goal that you have?
I'm not much of a kind of a fantasizer or dreamer. I'm a very black and white, boots on the ground. This is what it is. So I just hope that we can still be Xfinity racers for, the next 10, 20 years, that we've got a business plan that can keep us solid and together for that time period. And so I don't really have any specific, dream.
We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation about Kelley's new book. We're also going to talk about the world of NASCAR and some of the changes there and much, much more. We'll be right back. Hey there, it's Mike. If you're like most small business owners, you may struggle with getting everything you need done in the day. And a lot of times, one of the things you're looking for is great graphic design. Maybe a new logo, flyers, brochures, business cards, even a new website or email campaign designed for you. You can't fit it into your day, so you need some help. Our friends over at Floxy are there to help you. So whether you need a new video, some graphic design, the perfect copy, or a new website, Floxy's there to help you. And as a listener of JumbleThink, they're going to give you 10% off your first month with a 14-day money-back guarantee. All you have to do is head on over to floxy.com/JumbleThink. That's Floxy, FLOCKSY.com/JumbleThink to get 10% off your first month. So head on over and get your perfect project completed for you. Now let's return to today's conversation. We are back with Kelley Earnhardt Miller. How do we find this book? Because it is definitely worth a read. Where can they find it?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's Kelley Earnhardt Drive, and I spell my name Kelley, which is different for a lot of Kelleys, but KelleyEarnhardtDrive.com. And on there, it lists the available retailers that are carrying the product. You can, pre-order the book, order the book, Amazon. We're going to have it on our shopjuniornation.com site here shortly. And so, yeah, depending on what area you're in, whether you're on lockdown or not on lockdown and what stores are open is where you'll be able to find it. But you can find it online and find out more at that website is probably the best place.
And we'll put those links in the episode notes, so you don't have to look far wherever you're listening right now. It's right below where you're listening. So just go click on the link. We've been going back and forth on scheduling and working out the schedule because so much is happening in NASCAR right now, and you're having to deal with that. You're very entrenched in that community. NASCAR is postponed indefinitely. Talk to us about some of the things going on behind the scenes that you're having to process as a team leader when it comes to JR Motorsports, and how the conversation's going on in NASCAR. Talk to us a little bit about some of that stuff going on.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different moving parts. Obviously, conversations with NASCAR as our league, those conversations mostly stem around, different time frames, looking at the different time frames that we can go back racing. If it were this time frame, what does this look like for you? What are the logistics? Could we race here, here, and here? If it's, this time frame and it's a shorter time frame, what does this look like? What are you prepared to do if we race during the week, if we do double headers, different things like that. So, it's a lot of what ifs because, we don't know. And it's a state by state situation with the different orders and things that are in under COVID. So, and then there's the internal executive team that is meeting. We talk on a regular basis, daily pretty much. And we get together as a group once a week, just talking about, it seems like these last 3 weeks, there's new and different information coming down from the government, from the CDC, from the CARES Act, the stimulus, all these different things, and trying to look at how you're managing your business. And without knowing when you're going to race again, it's kind of, hard to figure out what the next step is. So just a lot of conversation and modeling on what different things look like. But, from the non-racing piece of it in terms of not being on the track, iRacing and this virtual racing has come along. And so I don't know if you've been able over the past 2 weeks to watch any of the virtual racing that Fox has been airing, but iRacing has been around for quite a while, and esports. And so this is really a time that esports can shine, and they've been doing a lot of fun things. My brother Dale's been racing in these races, and a lot of the other NASCAR personalities. And so I think it's been really fun and a nice distraction to see some racing. And it's so weird. You're sitting there watching a virtual race, and I caught myself in the first race because Dale was going for the lead and the win, jumping up and down in my living room, just like I was watching a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
And it feels stupid and funny, but yet it's fun.
Yeah. And we need a little fun right now.
Yeah.
He ended up finishing second in that race, the Homestead Miami.
He did, yes.
Yeah, and that was March 22nd. Super cool that they're doing. And what's interesting is that there are some teams in the racing world who are strictly in some of the circuits. You happen to already be positioned in some of the eNASCAR iRacing stuff. So how are you as a team pivoting some of the stuff that you're doing to better facilitate that?
Yeah, it's kind of on a day-by-day basis because the first race came together very quickly. We weren't really prepared from a social and marketing perspective to utilize and utilize our current partners. So, the same, you're learning every day. We haven't had to deal with virtual racing and iRacing and what that looks like and how we talk about it and what our partner's interest is in it and so on and so forth. So every week opens some new doors, brings some new thoughts, brings some new ideas. You're fine tuning and kind of tweaking what our approach is. And so it looks like they're here to stay and that each Sunday we'll be running these virtual iRaces. And so, we're trying to integrate that into how would you deliver, how do you deliver through a virtual iRace what we're normally delivering, on the racetrack and through our social media and through our marketing channels and to our fans. So, constantly adapting and being flexible to try to put what processes we normally have used and see how they work in this esports world.
Well, one of the things I was reading about that was that, one, it overperformed what Fox expected, so that's pretty awesome. And two, there was an engagement on Twitter that was unexpected also, and how the fans engaged with it, how the drivers engaged with it. So are you, like, it's a vastly different space than racing a physical car on an actual track versus an e-sport. How are you guys feeling about it? Are you excited about it? Do you kind of look at it as like, at least this is a stopgap for us to get us through till when we can race again? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, we're excited about it. The engagement's been great. I think that first weekend, nobody knew that, what to expect and how it was going to do. And so we were all just having a lot of fun with it. The second weekend, just like anything else, it starts getting more serious, right? So, the first weekend, it's all fun and games. And then the next week, you're seeing these drivers prep and test at the tracks and, want to be better and want to give everybody a better race. There wasn't as many cautions and things like that. And they're starting to take it more serious. And I imagine each week it'll continue to change and evolve. And, same thing for us on the marketing and social and things like that. We'll just continue to change and evolve. It's a great distraction. I think that we just have to be careful that, the expectation, like not every NASCAR driver is racing these e-races, and they shouldn't be expected to race them, and so on and so forth. So that it doesn't, take over to the point where there's tons of obligations and tons of expectations that, because right now there's just too many unknowns to get to that point.
Yeah. I want to pivot here and talk a little bit about legacy. We talked about that in the first segment from the standpoint of your dad to you and your brother, and now your daughter's even racing now. As you look at JR Motorsports and as you look at what you are building and continue to build, what's the legacy that you're really seeing for the business? And does it excite you that your daughter's driving? Does it worry you? Those kind of things when it comes to like, how do you see this unfolding for the next several years?
Yeah, well, I have two daughters and a son. Both my daughters have toyed with some dirt racing, and my oldest daughter has ran in the USAC Midget Series. She's not running this year, had a limited schedule that she was going to be racing, and she's trying to focus on, what her career is going to look like and what life's going to look like. And I'm not sure that it's going to include racing. I haven't really pushed any of them to from a race car driver aspect. I just want them, much like my book says, I just want them to find, their passion, find what they're interested in, gain knowledge and experience in that field, and set themselves up for what they want to achieve in life. So if it's racing and they want to come work at JR Motorsports or figure out things, my oldest daughter has shadowed our PR team and our marketing team to see what that's all about, and so if that's if they're interested in that and that's what they want to do, they're welcome to be a part of it. And just like my dad, I'll expect them to come in here and work hard and earn it and show that, they've got the drive and commitment to want to be a part of it from the ground up. So, but at their ages, I'm not taking it too serious at this point.
Yeah. A lot more years before you have to do that.
Yeah. Sure.
You are very busy in what you're doing, and you have your fingers in so many different aspects of the business and in the larger sense of the community. And this is coming back to the book, how are you balancing that pace, that tempo that you have to perform at, or that you work at between work and life, and the seasonality of, when your race season's going on, it's got to be crazy, and then your down season looks vastly different. How do you pace that? How do you make that sustainable for you?
Well, I, utilize people around me, and I've got a great husband and family that is available for the kids and to be a part of, if you need to have someone show up at a ball game or a school function or something like that, we've got, if it's something that I can't make, we've certainly got friends and family that are part of that. Just balancing work, I think is, I talk about in my book, learning to say no to things. And I'm always the one that wants, obviously people want you involved in things because of, something that you can bring to the table, but I always can't say yes. And so I've just had to really learn to prioritize and say no and really think about, maybe what I also benefit from the situation so that, I'm doing things that are purposeful for both parties. And just a lot of times that means saying no, going to events, going to this and that, you just can't be everywhere and be everything to everybody. So, and that's okay. And, a lot of that is, self-talk to yourself to tell yourself that's okay and not worry about the expectations of other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And expectation is sometimes one of the hardest things because you put perceived expectation on yourself. You put actual expectations from others. You were just saying there that you have to learn how to say no in that process. How do you manage the emotions behind making those decisions? Because that's another part of what you talk about here about managing your emotions. There's so much. You seem like a person that wants to be involved, that you want to help, that you want to be supportive, but there are times when that's just not a realistic expectation. So how do you balance that desire to meet expectations or your own expectations, others' expectations, and then on top of that, knowing that you have to process the emotions of sometimes you're going to let people down, sometimes you just have to say no. That's a tough line to bounce.
It is.
Go through life.
Yeah, it is very tough, and I mean, the first thing that I kind of step back and remember is that we're all responsible for ourselves. And so a lot of times I want to take responsibility for other people. And, and I think that's something that I have to remind myself that every day we wake up, we all have choices. We all have the ability to make those choices. And, it's up to ourselves which way we go, positive or negative. But, right here in the middle of what we're experiencing now in the COVID, I am, my heart is torn in 1,000 directions trying to help people. Yeah. I've got friends that need financial help. I've got groups of people that need help. I'm on boards for places. Just this morning on a phone call, we're looking for, KN95 masks for one of the boards that I'm on for some of the children. And just, you're torn in a million directions, and I want to help everybody. Yeah. And I just have to stop and I just have to say, one person, one situation at a time, that, I can't give to everybody. I can't help everybody, and just kind of pick, again, prioritizing and trying to figure out what the needs are. Because I'd give my whole salary away to everyone else at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people in need, and there's so many people that are far worse off than I am. So it's a hard thing to balance.
Now, I was talking to my dad before I did the interview. He's a huge race fan. He's worked at dirt tracks in the Northeast, and I said, "Is there a question that I need to ask that you want me to ask?" And he's like, "No, actually, there isn't." But he did mention and tell some stories of watching you actually race as a driver. So the question I have for you is esports are out. You have driven in the past. Have you thought about getting into one of these esport cars for one of these races?
I haven't. I could probably, easily find somebody with the equipment and to let me go check it out. Thankfully, I live in an area where the internet's really bad, and so therefore, I couldn't keep up with my internet wouldn't keep up with the software and whatnot. But I don't think so. I don't really have a passion to do it. So, I'm happy in the business world and doing my thing over here and managing that aspect of it and not being an actual racer or an e-racer.
Now, you have raced and you just mentioned there that you love the business side. How did that love for the business side actually start for you?
When I raced, I I was going to college. So I went to college 90 to 95 and I raced 93 to 96. So I actually went 2 years of college while I was racing and I was working. And so, the work just rose kind of to the top. I'm a doer and like to achieve things. And so I was successful at what I was doing. My boss was recognizing, my capabilities and giving me more responsibility. And racing really was, not going that way. It just was, the female aspect of being a racer and kind of the sacrifice and what I needed to put out there to maybe be a racer. I wasn't, that wasn't in my DNA. I wanted to go work and make money and do good. So do that, side of things. So, it just, that's just what happened. And, I worked hard and I climbed up the ladder at the souvenir business where I worked, in the late 90s and, was given more responsibility and just had a kind of a natural ability to pick up things easy and learn things and retain things and be part of a strong team there. And it was recognized by my boss. And so, that's just kind of how I shifted to the business side. I'm a analytical problem solving thinker, that's what I like. So.
Yeah. I remember hearing a story of you, and I think I even saw an interview where you say you still have it in your desk, but you created like this business plan that was 20 pages long for sponsorship back when Junior was racing probably dirt track at that point, I want to say.
Yes, it was actually asphalt racing, late model racing, and so I typed up on a typewriter the sponsorship deck, and we were trying to sell sponsorship around his late model team, and this was prior to the team that my dad put together and we all drove for. So yeah, I have that in my desk drawer, just forever and a day, hung on to it because it's one of the very first things that we ever did, and so I cherish it.
Super cool. Well, we're going to take a break right here. When we come back, it's rapid fire questions. Chasing big ideas and dreams is hard to do. It's even harder when you try to do it by yourself. But where do you go to find a community of dreamers, of idea makers, of entrepreneurs, of other creators just like you? Here at JumbleThink, we're here to help, and we are launching the new JumbleThink Facebook group. This group is a place to share your struggles and obstacles so that we can help you overcome those challenges, where you can share the victories that you have and have a community, a tribe around you to celebrate with you, to be encouraged and inspired to take those next steps when you're not quite sure what to do. And I'm inviting you today to join us on the new Facebook group. It's completely free. All you have to do is head on over to jumbleThink.com/group. I can't wait to see you there. So head on over right now, jumbleThink.com/group. Now let's jump into rapid fire questions with today's guest, Kelley Earnhardt Miller.
L'aiguille sur le disque. Mettez le contact, reposez votre bras et attendez.
We are back with Kelley Earnhardt Miller. Kelley, are you ready for rapid fire questions?
All right, let's do it. Now, I'm going to have to really focus on the rapid part of it, because I like to talk. So,
well, take as long as you want.
All right.
As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
School teacher.
That actually surprises me. Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep.
What is one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Oh, Google.
That's a good answer. I like that. What is one change you would like to see in the world?
Oh, one change. Just more kindness. Grace for people. I think it could go a long way.
Yeah. And we need a lot of kindness to get through what we're dealing with now.
Yep.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I think just that I cared for people. I get it all the time that I lead from the heart, and that's the I'm always am caring and concerned for other people. So just that part of me.
Where do you find inspiration?
I don't know where I find inspiration. In my daily devotionals.
Nice. What is one book you think every dreamer should read?
The Bible, for one.
Love that. Yeah.
That's probably the biggest one. Gosh, from there, I don't know. See, I love self-help books, but I read them and I just like find one or two things in them. And so I don't know, but the Bible would probably be the first one.
For you, how do you define success?
Are you happy?
I love that.
Yep. Are you happy? To me, that's success.
Sorry, what was that?
I just said, if you're happy, to me, that's success.
That's good. I love that. What is one trend you're currently excited about?
Trend I'm excited about. Let's see. E-racing, maybe? It's the most exciting thing going on in my world right now. Gosh. Yeah, let's just go with e-racing.
Yeah. What is one habit you find helpful in your life?
Morning coffee with my husband and our devotionals. So, it's a time just to connect together. It's something we set aside in the mornings. No matter how much earlier we have to get up, we don't miss coffee with each other, sitting on the couch, just kind of chatting to start your day, what your day look like, what you got going on, that kind of thing. And then reading. I just do a quick devotion each day and try to set my mind in the right direction.
I don't always ask this question, but I really think that it's an important question today. And that's, you're talking a little bit about the faith that you have here. How is faith helping you through this season? How is it a foundation for your life?
Oh gosh. I'm not the greatest at it, I'll admit. My faith has really grown in I've always been a Christian, grew up in church, but I grew up, like it was something you had to do. I grew up that, okay, you had to go to Sunday school, you had to do this, you had to do that. And then at home, it wasn't practiced. It wasn't, part of our world. It was just that on Sundays, this is what you did. And, on Wednesday nights, we're going to drop you off at the kids program. But it wasn't practiced on a daily basis. So my faith for me has really grown, over the last probably 5 to 8 years of really, practicing it in my home and letting it be part of my daily day. Which has been positive for me. And so I've been really growing and trying to understand more about the Bible and trying to focus there more. But it's important. It just gives me a peace. When I can say that, God knows the path. He knows where we're headed. I don't like all the, God, he wouldn't give us bad things, or he wouldn't put us through this if he didn't know we were strong enough. I don't really go there. To me, it's that he knows the path and this is part of the plan. And if this is part of what the plan is, I'm going to do my best to dig deep and do what I need to do to get through it and overcome it and find something from it. And probably the biggest thing for me, I'll share a quick story, was my mother passed away last April of lung cancer, April 22nd. So we're coming up on a year anniversary of her death. And it was a couple week process of her going downhill very quickly. The cancer diagnosis was in January and we lost her in April. So,
oh, wow. Really quick then.
Yeah, very quick. And I kept asking my uncle, her brother is very religious, I'll call him. And he reads his Bible every day. And anytime he has anything going on in his life, he finds a Bible verse and he shares it. And that's what he kind of puts his faith in. And I turned to him and I said, why is this taking so long? And he's like, I don't know. Something's working here. There's something going on. And it was for me. And I try not to cry about this, but it was so divine that the wait was for me to come to terms with her leaving. And, it's sad, of course, you don't want to lose your mother, you lose your dad, and it's sad to lose your parents, but it was me getting to a place of peace that it was okay that she left.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty profound.
Yeah. Wow.
Good stuff, huh?
Yeah, good stuff. I'm like, how do you move past that? That's...
Oh, gosh, I know, right?
Oh, that's so good.
I tried my best not to cry the whole time, but, sometimes Dale always says I'm a crier, so that's just the way it is. People like to
I'll tell you, though, that I think that's really encouraging in the season that we're in, that we don't have to understand the plan. We don't have to know how it all unfolds. We just have to know that we can trust God and that we can continue the course and know that he is a God that is good and walk through. And for the story you just shared, it gave you what you needed in that season to go through that process. And it's just amazing that so often God does things that we, on the surface, when we're going through it, it just doesn't make sense. But when we look back, we're just like, wow, there he was.
Yep. Amen. Absolutely.
So, not to break this really good moment, here's the next rapid fire question. What is one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
I wish that, I wasn't so hard-headed in relationships, and had a little bit more grace and would maybe give up the fight to be right or the winner or whatever you want to call it. Because with my dad's death, we struggled in our relationship at that time. And I wish that, I could have been, we both could have been bigger persons to move on. But I wish that, I could have just put that aside and had a better relationship, and not let your feelings and things like that get in your way.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, if I wasn't doing what I'm doing today, I have no idea. I'd be running something, I'd be in charge of something, running something, maybe my own business, somebody else's business. But yeah, I'd be doing something. I mean, maybe not in the racing world, but similar capacity to my role here.
And our final rapid fire question is, what is one dream you are still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
One dream I want to fulfill in my own life. It's just to get my kids raised into productive adults. Yeah.
The dream of every good parent.
Right, exactly.
As we wrap up, we always like to leave our guests have a final thought. What would you like to leave all of us listening with today?
I don't know. Just be gracious and be kind. Sometimes it bites me in the butt, but I give the benefit of the doubt more often than not. And, just putting yourself in other people's shoes and understanding their story and understanding their perspective and where they're coming from just can go such a long ways with, getting along better and allowing space for people and situations in our world today.
Kelley, thank you so much for taking time out. I know you have a lot on your plate. I'm super excited about this book, and thank you for being vulnerable and taking the risk to write something that was so transparent and open, and just there's a lot of great stuff in here.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. I appreciate it, and folks can check out the website for the book, and I hope you enjoy it. And thanks for having me. I so appreciate it.
Once again, we want to thank Kelley for taking time out to be on the show with us today. I really encourage you, go check out the books. The links to her website and to the book are in the episode notes, so just go click that and go check out the book. I also want to thank you for tuning into today's show. It means the world to me that you would listen, and I hope today's conversation has encouraged you to take a little step, a little leap of faith in your own journey of chasing those dreams and ideas. Now it's up to you. Only you can make the dreams and ideas that you have inside of you become real. So take that small step, take a big leap into the unknown, and start creating your dreams. Thanks again for tuning in. Dream big and change the world around you.
peut vous gêner ou tirer votre attention. Cherchez la meilleure position. Les bras et les jambes légèrement espacés. Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.